County Commission meeting. All those capable, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Bobby, would you call roll?
Commissioner Neil Younger,
Present.
Chair Michael Burgess,
Here.
Commissioner Nathan Liker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Gotta get to my agenda, sorry. Okay, any change of the order of business? I don't believe so. We do have one executive session at the end of the meeting. Prior minutes, any
Prior
changes?
minutes are good.
Notes?
Good.
Okay, these are good. Consent agenda,
I move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I will second that.
got a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business. Anybody in the audience want to speak? Monthly department report. Nathan, Neil, you got comments you want to make?
I will make comment, EMS is still seeing quite a few runs, at about 11, 12 runs a day. Most of those are non-transfer runs. They're actually ambulatory runs where people are already in distress. So quite a bit there. And then our sheriff's department is, they're seeing low inmates at the jail, but after looking through their reviews, monthly activity reports, that could change. They had about 30% more incidents in the month of March versus January and February. So just some things to watch out for.
I don't have any comments, Neil.
I have none.
Another busy month like always. First item, conditional use permit, 2509 Stephen R. Stewart, equipment sales, storage and rental, approval or disapproval on the CUP 2509. I think zoning board chair, David McDaniel.
Good morning, Commissioners. David
Morning.
McDaniel, Chair of the Joint Planning and Zoning Board. This morning, we're addressing the CUP number 2509, which is a permit application by Stephen Stewart for 1517 Feedlot Road for equipment sales. I know that you have the paperwork in your packet, so I'll just briefly tell you that on March 26th, the Planning and Zoning Board met. We went through all the application and certified that everything had been done properly toward the application, which is the property was posted, the people around were notified, the maps were presented, the fees were paid at that time, and we went through our finding of facts, which is about 11 or 12 questionnaire finding of facts. The unanimous decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission at that time was to approve this. We bring it before you this morning for your approval or kick it back to us or whatever you want to do with it. The committee has approved it.
Did you receive any correspondence in regards to the changing the CUP?
No, the protest period ended on March 9th, April 9th, last week, Wednesday. There were no protests.
Okay. This site was formerly a commercial site. How come was it not filed the first time?
That I don't know. The application was to, go ahead.
Justin Craig,
Sorry.
Environmental Services Director. It was prior to zoning,
Okay,
so it was already existing, and he shut that business down.
okay. Very good. And this would have been like an ag land going to a commercial or a flex?
It's transitional ag. It'll remain that. Just for equipment sales and storage, it needs to be approved through a conditional use permit.
Okay. Thank you.
I have nothing because I was at the meeting, so I pretty well got filled in that evening, and
Yeah, I was there as well. The committee went through everything, didn't really have any concerns on my end, so I'll entertain a motion.
okay. I'll move to approve Resolution 2025-07 to approve CUP 2509 to allow equipment sales, storage, and rental on the parcel of land located at 1517 Feedlot Road, Ellis County, Kansas.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second on the table. Any other comments on it? On a conditional use, does that get passed to a future owner for anything?
I believe Mr. Jeter can correct me that it does,
Okay.
unless they change the use of the land.
Okay.
Bill Jeter, County Counselor, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners. Looking
Thank-
forward to meeting with you in Ellis on the 30th.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dave.
Same, thank you, Dave. We've got a 2024 County Engineers Road Supervisors Annual Report. And we'll have Kurt Hoffman, Road and Bridge Supervisor, presenting to us.
Kurt Hoffman, Road and Bridge Supervisor. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
The information came in your packet, I believe. It's a report that's put together every year by the Road and Bridge Department, and it's turned into KDOT, and in return, we get a booklet back from them. I don't know if you've received that yet or not. I think it goes to all the commissioners after they received them. Has anybody received anything on that?
I have
No,
not.
Nothing yet.
Okay. Do you have any questions on that? Like I said, it tells basically what the projects we've worked on throughout the year, and it's used for a planning tool for KDOT, I think, to distribute funds and projects.
One of the questions I did have concerning this was the bridge construction and rehabilitated line, which had been line 12. There's $0 entered in on that line, which I didn't know with the projects we did over in Victoria, the two bridges, if that would have been something that would have appeared there, or if it appeared in a different line.
I think that appeared in a different line, I believe.
Okay. Would have been maybe on the concrete road maintenance? where it
Yes,
would
I think so.
Okay,
I'd have to talk to Mickey at the weed department for sure on that.
okay.
But
it
I
was
can
just-
find out.
It was just one of those lines that stuck out with the zeros in it.
There
It could
was-
also be too,
That was
sorry,
done-
Darren Myers, County Administrator.
That was done by contractors, it wasn't done by our crews.
Oh, so this is just what our crews do?
I believe so.
And also, those projects may have been approved in 2023 because we did the two projects back-to-back for cost efficiencies. So
Okay.
that might have been part of a separate, or the previous year's report as well for 24 and not, or
Okay.
for 23 and not 24.
Well, that would make sense, and so, okay.
According to what Mickey came up with, there was 58 different bridges that our crews worked on, and it was more minor maintenance type of work.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, on line, item 9, that would not have taken care of both of those bridges in Victoria, no, 20,000. Now, annual cost, it has carried from forward automatic from line 6. Now, does that add together? Are you? Because that was going to be one of my questions also, how come it's all zeros, but we've done, 2 bridges?
I'll have to find out on that.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's perfectly fine.
Any other questions or concerns? There was a couple of culverts that we did replace on 110th Avenue, north of Ellis, and then when I say culverts, these are bigger structures. And on 330th Avenue, down south of the Pfeiffer Cemetery. And then, of course, we did the milling of the blacktop South Ellis. That was one of the more major projects we did.
Okay.
My only question, I got my budget books, I'm not gonna dig through them here, but, so we have an annual budget of 2024 is 7.6 million there at the top, line 2. And then you kind of go through, and then at the bottom, we ended up spending 7.2 million. So the 400,000 in savings, I guess, where does that all?
I believe they use multiple funds to determine that budget amount, between grant funds, local funds, Fund 78, the general fund. It's not necessarily matched directly to our departmental budget.
Okay.
So there's different revenues that go into different funds and different departments that kind of offset that, like the Special County Highway Fund. There's some grant matching dollars that get deposited into there. The state highway assistance funding that we get goes into the general fund as part of that to offset those expenses. And then the general fund transfers 1.6 million to the special highway fund as well. So that's why you can't necessarily compare it directly to the road and bridge department.
And doesn't say there's a motion needed, but do we need to make a motion to accept this engineer's report as presented?
I don't think we had to submit one in the past. It was just informational. It's required by statute that the report is given to the commission, and then Kurt and their crews submit that to KDOT for their research for the CLIP.
It needs to go on the
information.
minutes, more or less. Okay. Thank you, Kurt.
Moving on, Kurt, we got the 2025 asphalt maintenance materials.
Again, the information's in your packet, and it's for the purchase of asphalt from Ergon Asphalt. And on this one, a motion will need to be made, I believe, for that purchase. It's for mixing grade, sealing, tack oil, the different types of oil to complete our asphalt season.
And this is if all goes well and we can use it all?
Let's hope so. That's the plan.
Okay.
I think they're planning on kicking off mixing asphalt here in the next week or two.
Oh, okay. I have no question.
That's when we start spending serious money.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for it.
I move to approve PO 7917 to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions Incorporated.
I'll second that.
Okay, you got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on this topic?
Kurt, how long does it take once this PO is done that they get the oil here? Is it relatively quick?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, okay.
We could probably, once it's approved, I think the plan is maybe even start this week.
Okay,
And
good.
that gets trucked in from Dodge City.
Okay.
Good.
Any other questions?
Nope. All those in favor, say aye.
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 No opposed, passes 3-0. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Opioid funding request. And we got Sheriff Scott Brown.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott
Morning.
Brown, Ellis County Sheriff. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to review the document that was submitted. We're requesting to put on some training within Ellis County, which the plus side of that is it is coming to us at no cost, and we're going to be able to provide that fentanyl and opioid overdose death investigations to a variety of law enforcement. Typically, that runs about $400 per person. But Tim was able to get the company he worked for to waive that and come in for nothing, and we're requesting that the travel expense of $801.62 approximately to get him to come in, and we take care of his motels and food and that type of thing. Brian Shannon was the one that, Detective Brian Shannon was the one that put this together. And I think this falls well within that use of the opioid funds. I will tell you that on this, at the end, it said something about if we're over, that we would come back and readdress this with you. I'm not really concerned about that. I'll just make that difference up so we can move on, and with this, it can't be that much. So I will take care of that aspect. So don't worry about this. This will be the final one that you guys would see unless you want to hear something else. Do you have any questions for me?
Is this gonna be just for your department, or are you reaching out to
Statewide.
multiple? This is a
Statewide.
statewide, bringing this individual.
There's been some training in the eastern part of the state, but it's quite expensive, as I said, per person. The plus side of this one is this is not just for detectives. This is for our first responders. There are deputies that arrive, so the scenes are not contaminated. They learn what to look for to let that detective know. So all-inclusive, in addition to the detectives and that. Anybody that wants to attend will be able to attend. Really excited to bring this in. I know Detective, I always call him Tim Beck, personally through KNOA, and he traveled in from California, Las Vegas rather, I'm sorry. So I've had the opportunity, and he will do an outstanding job. So that will be opened up to all law enforcement across the state of Kansas.
Oh, wow, okay. I think that's a great use of the funds.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I'll move to approve the reimbursement of travel expenses for Timothy Beck to Ellis County Sheriff's Office using the opioid fund settlement funds. Opioid settlement funds.
I'll second that.
You're right.
We got a motion and a second on the table. Any further questions or discussion?
No, I think it's great when he can do that, so perfect.
Yeah, I think it's a good deal. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you,
No
Commissioners.
opposed, passes 3-0.
Have a good day.
You also.
The 2025 Ellis County Commission Scholarships. Darren presenting.
Morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Next item of topic for discussion is the 2025 County Commission Scholarships. The process was completed the same as last year. Then we received a total of 17 applications for 15 different scholarships. We had enough to go through all of Ellis, Hayes, Victoria, and TMP as are listed on your agenda packet. And the review process was the same as last year with the same personnel. We had an elected official, Vern Reuter, county treasurer review, our HR manager, Jennifer Taylor, and then myself were the three review panelists to look at their applications. Very interesting applications that we received. I really like to enjoy. I enjoy seeing at least on my side, the kids putting together information on what they know about the county government. On a personal side, I wish the local schools would do more to educate about local government to the high schoolers, but it's a different topic. The good news is we have 15 students in Ellis County attending schools in Ellis County, Fort Hays State, Tech Northwest, and Hayes Academy of Hair Designs, which is the requirement for the scholarship is to attend an Ellis County school with the intention and hopeful that they will stay in Ellis County to enter the workforce and continue to grow and keep our population going that way. So with that, we're just asking for approval of these scholarships. And then at a future meetings, we'll have each of you attend the scholarship award ceremonies at each school, which we can talk about if you would like to this morning. We do have one conflict with Victoria, as that'll be the day of our staff and commission retreat. We'll just need somebody as an Ellis County representative to attend that meeting if you like to present the scholarships to Victoria High School. But as we did last year, we kind of just went with the districts. Commissioner Burgess went to Ellis. Commissioner Younger did Hayes here, since he's also the scholarships at Hayes High. And then Commissioner Liker went to Ellis, or Victoria and TMP. I believe, like I said, the Victoria one, we have a conflict, and I believe Commissioner Burgess has a conflict as well in the
Yeah,
morning of the
potential
7th.
conflict, maybe, yeah. Depending on time and all that, so, but, yeah.
I would say we should discuss it so we can find somebody. I mean, that's gonna be here before we know it, that we're gone. At least to ask some people. I know I had suggested to you if Mr. Jeter would do it, but if he doesn't, then we can look.
He'll be with us at
Okay.
the retreat.
Okay.
Easy
wonder-
thing is to always ask staff, department heads, elected officials, but everybody will all
Is
be at the
all-
same
yeah.
meeting, so.
I wonder if the mayor and Victoria would present them.
It's an option.
John?
I'm just trying to get somebody online so if we get turned down so we can find someone.
I can ask Mayor Schulte or maybe one of their city council members. Joe LaRue used to be a county commissioner.
Sure.
He might be interested as well. But if you want, I can reach out and just get a name and just email it back to the commission to make sure you're at least aware if one of them would be willing to do so.
We could do that. Scheduling, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you were available to do Hayes High still? And then are you able to do TMP on May 1st?
I believe so.
And then would either of you be able to do Ellis on the 7th, May 7th in the morning? Starts at 8 a.m.?
Yeah,
8 a.m.
potentially, yeah.
Okay.
And I might be able to, I just have to be back in Hayes by 10:30, that's where I was like, I'm not sure by the time they get through their award
Got it.
ceremony. I don't wanna get it picked up by the sheriff trying to get back. But,
So I cannot do the 7th. The 1st I can do for TMP, that's not an issue there. But I don't know about the 7th. I'd know closer that week.
If the commission would like, I could also go over to Ellis that morning. I cannot, I'm sorry, we have that budget workshop out at Fort Hayes that day, so I'm unavailable as well.
Okay, let me double check on this for the 7th here later on, and then I can refer that.
I'll just follow up with the commission next week to see what we can get.
Sure.
Everybody check your schedules, and then we'll get somebody picked out for it if needed.
Okay. Very good.
And then on these scholarships, remind me, are these renewable? So we're doing
Yes, sir,
10,000 this
they're-
year, and we have 10,000 from last year. Are we renewing the 10, or how many we did last year, the 10,000 again?
Yes, sir, they're renewable for 1 year based on their enrollment and eligibility within the school that they're partaking, Fort Hayes, NCK, et cetera. We just do a verification process in August to ensure that they're enrolled and that they're eligible to attend school. And if they meet those qualifications, then that's determined by the school. They give Carissa the thumbs up, and then we would disperse the payments there in August, right about the time that they start at the school. So it's the initial award year, and then it can be followed up 1 year based on that.
Okay.
I guess since we're on this subject, I want to add Fort Hayes Tech. You're starting to see a lot of stuff on social media that the kids are coming into Hayes. And it's not just Ellis, Trigo County, it's the surrounding ones coming in. So hopefully we can retain those. And then another thing I want to add, instead of the kiddos applying for a loan, have them go for scholarships, because that's a lot going on that nobody applies for a scholarship. It's free money. Hopefully parents can help out on that a little bit and push them a little, but yeah, that's you know, you get several of them and it helps out and everything helps out. But I just wanted to put my opinion in on that.
And for a reminder for anybody who's listening, watching, or seeing this, the funds for these scholarships are coming out of the sales tax. This is not a property tax funded scholarship.
That's correct.
So we've made that adjustment to go forward with.
Well, I'll move to approve the following 15 recipients for the 2025 Ellis County Commission scholarships.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0. And then we got top brush truck sale.
As the commission is aware, per the commission's request, we replaced two F-550 chassis for a brush truck, one in Victoria and one in Ellis. The one in Victoria was ordered first because it was older and had higher mileage. It is complete and is currently on Purple Wave for sale. As the bid was yesterday, as an update from here, I didn't actually check this morning, but the sale price the sale ends today, and it was at $13,000 even last night. The truck in Ellis is currently out at the shop getting the chassis swapped out and all the equipment upgrades completed to it, and should be completed this week. We were approached by a local fire department in a neighboring county from Ellis County that they would be interested in buying the second brush truck that's currently out of the shop getting worked on. And they'd asked basically if they would come close to being able to match what the current one sells on Purple Wave, if the county commissioners would be able to sell it to that local, I wouldn't say local, but a very close fire department to Ellis County. And I told them that's obviously not my choice, but it could be up to the commission, and then based on what statute would allow with, I did speak to Mr. Jeter about it, and there is a short process to go through that if the commission were like to proceed and they did want to buy it, that we would essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, publish a notice twice that we were going to sell it. And after that notice, the commission could then sell the truck at that price to the amount that they would offer for it, instead of putting it on Purple Wave, which is where the current one is at.
Okay.
I think he was reading through 3 pages of statute, and so I kind of try to summarize that in one sentence.
I think you did a good job of summarizing.
I have no problem with that from my standpoint. I mean, an auction's an auction, so we can either go high or low.
Mhm.
You know, we kind of already have an idea what the first one will go for, so very similar type vehicle, I think would be fine.
I will note too that they didn't actually put an offer in yet because they didn't know at the time when they were looking at the truck, the current one on Purple Wave was only at $7,600. So it's almost doubled from what it was previously. So basically what I told that department was I would at least bring it to the commission to see if you would entertain the option. So that way they knew if they proceed, then they were going to go back to talk to their council and commission as well. So there still is a bit of a process. There's not anything final. But this is just kind of that first step to see if the Ellis County Commission would be willing to do so.
I think we need to look regionally and help our regional partners, so where we can move some of this equipment close and help our neighboring counties, I think we need to look at that.
It's a bordering county. They help us, we help them. That's what it's about, work together, and I support that all.
Fine with it.
We'll go through the notification process. I'll see if before we start anything, I should say, I will notify them of what that sells for today, and then they'll make a determination if they want to offer. And if they do want to offer, then we'll start the notification process, publication process. If not, we'll just bring it back at a future meeting for a Purple Wave sale at a later date.
Very good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
The 2026 budget direction.
As the commission is aware, the first meeting here in April, the commission, I gave you lots of numbers, and I was gonna see about giving you a quiz to, if you remember all those numbers or not. But we reviewed all the financials, the year-end reports for 2024 in regards to the general fund budget, the transfers, there are separate capital improvement funds, capital equipment funds, highway fund, et cetera. But with that, that was a look at 2024. We're on to 2026 now, and we're already a third of the way through 25. But as the commission is aware, the department heads will very shortly, within the next week or so, start working on their budgets for next year. And we would just like to have a discussion and input from the commission as to what you would like to see in regards to any budgets, in regards to maybe what your goal is for the budget itself, the revenue neutral rate, mill levies, personnel changes, transfers to reserves, all that kind of stuff. So any information that you would be willing to share, the department heads appreciate that input, so that way they can try to get as close to what you're asking for on the first draft of the budget, which is due to be presented in June to the commission. So we would welcome any input or share any, if you could share any of your thoughts.
What is, I guess, the expected valuation increase that Eugene?
It's roughly about 3.3%. That's not final yet,
When
but
do we
that will,
finalize that?
Bobby will get this on June 1st, and then she'll get it back out to us for estimations about the 15th, which is essentially the first time that I could start honing down the budget spreadsheets to find out exactly, not exactly, but the closest estimate we can for what the mill levy will be.
Okay.
So I had asked Darren to give me a little information on grants that come through from the federal side and also the state side. The federal side, he has grants totaling up around $545,381, and then on the state side is approximately $30,000. Most of those are through very small funding grants. The federal side has some larger, more significant grants that we deal with. After the last week when with visiting with our members up in Congress up in Washington, kind of looking down the barrel of it, I think we need to be prepared if things get pulled. And I would like to try and, I encourage all of our departments to continue to apply for, search out, and, hopefully be successful with obtaining grants. But I would like our commission to understand that I don't know if we can plan on grants coming into our budgets.
And what was that number again, total?
On the federal side was 545,381, and on the state side was approximately 30,000. So, combined, that's almost 2 mil, correct? Or
1 mil for this year's budget was about 536,000,
okay, so it's
just
full
over a mil.
Yeah.
So I want that number to kind of play in our heads when we go forward, because we watched last week what some other funding mechanisms did, and not saying that is going to happen. I'm saying we don't know what's going to happen. So I guess my standpoint on direction is plan on that not being there, and then also we have a lot of responsibilities that we've taken on the past couple of years with a dispatch, with road projects. I'd like to see us try and maintain where we're at for a year without jumping in over top and trying to go deeper into stuff. Try and keep our feet underneath of us, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess my overall budget thought process is that it needs to be very similar to last year. If you're looking at numbers here on valuations, I mean, we've had some big years, but from 2022 to 23 is 13.3% increase, and then 11.9, and then a 4.8. But if we're looking at three, it's basically compressing each year. I know there for a few years, residents in the county is, property valuations were rocketing sky high, and they're concerned about their taxes, but I'm kind of starting to concern myself the other way. We're starting to see that compression where if property valuations, and if we're watching the markets overall, we may be entering a bear cycle through the market, just overall market and economy. So if our valuations are compressing or maybe going negative, I think we're going to have to really watch ourselves to keep our budget in line. It's very similar without much. I don't think we can see much increase, because by the time, that's kind of the thing, you're always behind on your valuations. You're getting these valuations, but by the time you pay your taxes, it's the year, it's the year after. So if you start paying your taxes, but now valuations potentially go flat or negative in the 2026, going into 2027, you're behind on your budget. And that kind of goes to what Nate, I think we want to make sure we maintain the projects that we've already kind of committed to, or without overreaching too quickly. So I think that would be my direction, is departments have to really keep a level budget.
I still look to go make good on our dedication to our employees with the step increases and the COLAs, as we've presented. So I look to do that. If we do that, plus our, final year of picking up the dispatch, we've got quite a bit coming in that we have to account for. Like I said, I hope that none of these grants get cut, but that's very impactful as well.
I too also would like to see it stay tight, just like last year. Not only that, our head departments have done, the years I've been in here, they've done an excellent job. So kudos to them. Only thing I would like to see, maybe get the process started. And I visited with Brandon last night because he's in a conference, and with the GIS and the GPS to maybe possibly get some numbers. Start doing our bridges, our culverts, when we replace them. Everything's electronic, so it's all in front of them right now. But like he said last night on the phone, he said we're kind of behind. He's been visiting with Saline County, and so that kind of made me think, we better start that process and see what kind of funding we're going to need for that. Not just jump in all at once, but at least get some numbers so we have something to work with.
And I would like to make the comment, we're up here suggesting we need to tighten our belts. We as commissioners, at least myself, I know we've increased in some of the things we've done over the past couple of years, but I don't feel we've ever overstepped ourselves, and we haven't just been out spending taxpayer dollars unwillingly. We've accounted for every dollar that's gone out and tried to make the most of it. So where we're sitting up here discussing tightening our belts is we're trying to keep the taxpayer in our mind that this is what's coming. So we're preparing ourselves for it.
And, with that being said, there's even just like the Fair Board, how they this year, doing a raffle. So, everybody's trying to help out also, which is great. That's what needs to happen. And
On staffing level, I think they're going to have to be basically flat. Other than the one staffing area we know heading into next year is the IT. That's where we're going to have to work that out. We've got a director that's retiring, and we're going to have to replace a director. And while doing that, we've had these discussions, try to bring somebody in to get trained up and ready to go, so that way it can be a seamless transition when it does happen. So there is certainly the IT department's probably the one area for staffing levels, but I guess the rest of the departments are probably going to have to maintain their levels. And I think we're going to have to maintain those levels because of what you talked about, the cost of the raises and cost of living adjustments and those things that we want to maintain from our wage and benefits study. I am pretty committed to maintaining what we've put into place. So if we're going to maintain that, then we're probably not going to be able to add employees across the board.
That'd be the same comment, staying flat on the request for those outside agencies that the county commission would review in mid-June. Trying to ask for those numbers to stay the same as 2025.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
So the one area that we've had some discussions on, we have a request, additional request would be High Plains Mental Health with their crisis intervention center, right? Crisis.
Correct.
So I think we have a
$70,000.
$70,000 request, potentially an ongoing request from that, right? Or is
That
it
is
a?
correct.
Okay. I think we should consider it. One of our topics that when we were in DC, as we were talking to our federal representatives again, one of the major topics that we brought up that hits us locally is mental health. The sheriff talked about it. We had Craig Poe, the CEO of High Plains Mental Health, a part of our commission, so I think it is something that we do need to consider as part of our budget request. I do have some, I guess, overall concerns of how that would look multiple years. I think we can always squeeze something in one time or something, but I think it needs to be part of our discussion for sure. We did have another outside, I'll just bring it up, Northwest Kansas Planning and Development requested $40,000, I think. We have not been a part of their organization for 5 or 6 or 7 years. I don't have any interest in rejoining, but
I'll agree.
there is a
Aye.
request, so.
I'll agree.
And then I think we did have an update on Roz with this conversation.
Correct. RAWS, as it stands now, is not, Ellis County would not be eligible. It's for counties of presenting a 15,000 in population or less. However, we are obligated to the 2 that are already approved. There's 1 that should be approved sometime this year, so we'll be committed to 3 RAWS applicants for the next 4 years.
Okay.
So that will be a slight savings in the budget, unless they redo the program and change it back, or change it where Ellis County would become eligible again. But if that's the case, we'll bring it to the commission to see what you would like to do with it.
Okay.
That'd be a slight savings. I'll just throw this as an idea at this point. We had Marytown present. I feel like that potentially could be, if we're not going to use any funding for RAWS, maybe something like a Marytown that could use a little bit of funding. Another local or another program similar to that is called Reality U. They come in, they go to our local schools to present a program on how to budget and do those things. So I'll just potentially throw that as a suggestion of maybe those are, if we don't do RAWS, or we can't, and I think we do need to save some of that money, but if we wanted to look for some other programs that I think fit within the educational piece that we're trying to do, then those would be 2 programs I guess I would consider.
Okay.
I like that idea also, and then it keeps coming back to what our administrator says. He'd like to get in there and teach some of them kiddos some government stuff, so maybe we do that and get them in the loop and all the stuff too, so.
Yeah. I'd entertain that.
I guess
Then
as
we
long
have
as the
to-
teacher will do it.
Yeah. And we have to kind of figure out, we'll have these discussions further with the potential of looking at some sort of program for our subdevelopment areas. Ultimately, it's still going to come down to some funding at some level. I don't know if we'll have it resolved as we go through the 2026 budget, because we're going to have those discussions throughout. But I think it has to be a part of our discussions for 2026 to see if we figure anything out where it can fit in 2027 or 2028. So I still think it needs to be part of our budget discussion. as we figure out what that program might look like if it comes to fruition, so.
I agree. We'll keep that in there and
Yes.
at least look at it as workable.
Yep. You know, with the subdivisions, and this might be a stupid question, but can Brandon break that down as far as where he goes in and does maintenance on each one to kind of give us an idea of what we were spending on all of those?
Kurt left. He was my go-to.
Okay, well,
I can
that's just
ask.
something for,
See if they can give you a
Discussion.
breakdown of what
Yeah.
they're spending estimated on man-hours, equipment, and projects that they're doing on the subdevelopments.
okay, I'm just looking at that, like Mr. Burgess said, that, you know, that way we can figure out something, we'll see what we've already got invested in it, and then do some additional funding to it. Okay,
You know, as far as the mill levy R&R rate, I don't know that we're gonna be able to stay neutral. I don't know if that's gonna be possible. You know, I would like to maintain our mill rate the way we've done it. I mean, the past couple of years, we've been actually able to lower.
yep,
I mean, if we can lower, I'd love to see that, but I definitely wanna try and maintain it at the very minimal.
Yeah, the mill rate this year currently is the lowest the mill levy rate has been in Ellis County since 2014, so over 10 years. Valuations have increased, but with the effort of trying to not increase taxes as much as you could by keeping the mill levy the same or increasing it, it is the closest it's been down to 2014.
I mean, that's, like I said, and our costs have all doubled and tripled.
doubled, yep.
So, I mean, that shows you what the valuations have done, but I think I know our department heads do a very good job of trying to keep things as close and as tight as they can. You know, if they have to make a purchases or something, I know they look, they shop around, they do their homework, and I guess I just ask that if they want to buy something, if they need to buy a high-priced piece of equipment, if they can find savings, if we have to budget, and I'll throw a generic number out, if we budget 100,000 for it, if they find something at 90 and they can utilize that 10, you know, to better off the department some other way, I think if we can stretch those dollars as best we can, that's what needs to happen.
And what do we have for transfers, capital reserves? What are your preliminary thoughts on it? I don't-
The transfers should essentially, based on our 5-year plan, there may be one that I would think could increase, well, two, just because the public works public works equipment is expensive. You know, there's always the need to put the money away each year for that. Communications is the other. There's technology I could almost argue that it's more expensive than public works, to be honest with you. The infrastructure for the 911 center, the radios, et cetera. But I think pretty much all the other departments are at a level of funding capital to put enough each year in to cover what it is equally be split over the next 5 years to maintain those capital reserves to continue to fund those. So I wouldn't say we're funding at a level to pay for everything that we need or have identified in the capital plan in the next 5 years, but it's probably the most adequate that it's been for the entire county since I've been here for the last 10 years.
Okay. Building projects, the main building project we'll have coming up would possibly be some renovation work at the courthouse.
Correct. We've tried to put we're trying to prepare for that years in advance. Last year, we changed some of our funding formulas. Instead of 50% of the year end, we increased that from the sheriff's office, the communications, and buildings and grounds to put money aside for that renovation. That's actually the sheriff and I have, and our Buildings and Grounds Department, I think have a meeting next week, maybe this week to start looking at the blueprints, the plans, and trying to get a scope of that project. And hopefully within the next couple months, bring an agenda item back to the commission to start the build design process for the remodel, to see how that's going to go. So that way we can at least present to the commission what's the needs are, besides just telling you that we need a remodel to move after PD is out. I know there's some very easy things that we've discussed of potentially moving the training room from the basement to the current lobby of where the sheriff's office is at now, approximate. Moving the dispatch center over into the current basement training room, which gives them a bigger facility, more office space. And then as the sheriff's office transitions over to where the PD is currently at, there's going to be some touch-ups needed, changing some walls and some door locations, et cetera. But that's the gist of it. But we're going to get into more details in the next couple months to get a better scope on that project and a budget estimate. But that is something that's already identified in our capital plan of roughly $1.25 million for that remodel. And that's a ballpark guess at this point, but we need to narrow that project down a little bit so we can get better numbers for that process come August of 2026 when PD moves out of the building.
Okay.
Then also, I think we should do some discussion on the fairgrounds to see what else needs, because it got run down pretty hard there, and we've got some great people in there right now that are volunteering a lot of their time. So maybe if we can get an update on what needs to be completed yet out there as far as what we had previous years.
We do have several things listed in the capital plan for that. This year was the first year that we've put capital reserve transfers budgeted into their budget, $25,000 each for the building, Shanklin Ryan building, and then $25,000 for the fairgrounds. I'm not sure that fully captures the total need, because the largest project of the fairgrounds is to pave the parking lot, or not pave, but asphalt the parking lot. But we're still trying to work through the plans of that as it impacts the races out there with the heavy traffic, the semis and such. So we still have tried to work through that.
Okay. Couple things in case you are thinking of any final thoughts to share. You did mention the succession plan for the IT department. As the commission requested, you would like to see the numbers of what that's going to cost to basically overstaff that department for 4 months of the next year to get that succession plan in place when our IT director retires. But that approximate amount is just over $42,000 to complete that. So that'd be a one-time, one-year expense for those January through April to basically double staff that position, and then allow that training time for the GIS position as well. So that was that piece, which we had decided, or the direction I got from the commission is to approve or put that into the initial draft budget that you'll see in June. And then as we start talking about the personnel expenses, because about 60% of our overall expenses for the county are regarding salaries and our positions or our employees. The first budget draft that you'll include is a 7% increase for health insurance. That's an estimate. We won't know that until roughly September. We've been very fortunate the last couple of years. Last year was actually a good year as well. It came in under estimate, which was some budget savings. So that'll be included in your initial budget. As Commissioner Liker stated, our new policy states that as of January, the employees would receive an automatic step in that second pay period of the month. So that would be included in your initial plan for the budget for next year. And then what's coming up for an agenda item next month for approval is also part of the compensation plan is the mid-year COLA adjustment. The Social Security Administration has released those numbers for 2025, and that was a 2.5% adjustment. So with the commission's intent or approval next month, I'll bring a document back for the commission to make the budget adjustments to approve a 2.5% wage increase
that first pay period in July of this year. So all that would be essentially included with the step, the COLA, the succession plan for IT, and the health insurance increase. So that'll kind of get you as close to possible with the personnel expenses for next year. Our capers and KP&F rates changed. There's about 60,000 savings with that for next year. And and then our work comp numbers changed just a little bit, but there was a little bit of savings with that as well, but nothing significant that's going to